Just a reminder, today's conference is being recorded.
Speaker on. That cancels out the speaker, right? *6, Joe, should do it.
Okay, well, excuse me, I see from the screen in front of me that it's 6:31, so I guess I will call the meeting to order. And I did hear the message from the conference facility that this is being recorded. Correct, Madam Clerk?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, it is being recorded.
All right. So I think we can proceed, and thanks to everyone for joining us, and I hope you're all keeping well and in good spirits. I guess the first item is to ask if there is any pecuniary interest to declare on the part of the councillors. Hearing none. We'll let the minutes reflect that there were no conflicts of interest. And now we could entertain a motion to approve the agenda, and that's with two additions to the correspondence section. It was actually one email message, but in two parts. The first part from, and they're both from residents on Boulder Lake. The first one was from Maggie Head, and the second one was from Lisa Gray, which was attached to Maggie's message, and they just came in on the weekend. So could I get a mover and seconder for the agenda with those additions, please?
I'll move
that.
Councillor Lamb.
Okay, I heard Councillor Lamb move and Councillor Gorham Matthews second. Any discussion?
Mr. Mayor, I know Liz is on the phone for Liz Toss for a consent agenda. I thought I heard her say. Did I miss that? Because I don't know. Where is that in our agenda? I just don't see it, but I may have missed something.
I think it's at the very bottom. I think it's the second time you're reading it, and I missed the first one. So I just wanted to hang in to make sure everything's okay.
I don't see it, no, but my question is, where is it on the agenda? I don't see it. Does anyone else see where Liz is?
No, your item, Ms. Toss, was approved at the last at our last council meeting, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it was.
Oh, okay. So the Perry Sound District Planning Board said you had to read it twice, but if it's approved, we're good to go then?
It all went through the last meeting, as far as I know.
Yeah, no. The way this now, remind me again. Yours was
the end
was
of
it the purchase of
Estates Road?
Yeah, but it was it was some rearrangements of property at the end of Dunchurch Estates Road, correct?
Yes,
and it was Liz Taz and Claire and Gaston Venn.
Yes, that's my memory is coming back, and you will see if you look at the package, you will see at the minutes of the last meeting, which we're going to approve tonight, but you will see the disposition of that. And the way this works is that the planning board, it's really a decision of the planning board, and the planning board reaches out to the municipality and asks the council if we have any opinions, if we're in agreement that the consents be granted or not, or if we think there should be additional conditions imposed or whatever. And again, from my recollection, and I think you will find this in the minutes, we basically passed a motion that said we had no objection to it being approved with the conditions that the planning board had recommended, and that motion passed. So you are for all intents and purposes, now back at the planning board, and they can then proceed to approve your consents. Okay, so we've done our bit, and the rest is now up to them, essentially. Other than when it comes time to actually register the documents in the registry office and so on, then we may get involved again. But that's we made our decision in favor of at least it's a decision to recommend your application. So we won't be talking about it. Not today. Not today. I'm trying to tell you can leave the meeting, but we won't be talking further about it this evening.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for clarifying. I appreciate it, and I will leave the meeting in. Thanks so much.
Good night, Liz.
Good night.
Thanks for joining us.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Leaving conference.
Elizabeth Todd.
So if we can go back then to, I was trying to get approval of this motion. Is there any discussion or any objections to approving the agenda with those two additions? Okay.
So moved, Mr. Mayor. Councilor McEwen.
Oh, sorry. It is. Sorry, Councilor McEwen. It was already moved before.
Oh yeah. Yes, sir.
Mrs. Paz asked her question. So it's moved and seconded. If there's no objection, I will declare it carried. Okay, I'm declaring it carried. Thank you. We have no presentations and delegations. We do have a planning item that was left over from the last meeting, which was the shore road allowance purchased by Jancy. And so we do need to go into committee of the whole to discuss that. Could I get a motion to move in committee of the whole, please?
I'll so move, Councilor McEwen.
Thank you, Councilor McEwen. Seconded by?
I'll second, Councilor Woods.
Thank you, Councilor Woods. Any discussion? All right, thank you. We are in committee of the whole as of 6:38 p.m. That motion is carried. So, what we have in front of us is a report. We have a copy of the report from our planner, John Jackson.
Simpson?
Which, I'm sorry, who was that joined?
Mrs. Simpson.
Oh, okay, all right. I didn't hear it, but I'll. Welcome. I will add you to the list, Mrs. Simpson. We have the report from John Jackson is the same report that we had last meeting, and as you're aware, the reason that this matter was deferred was that he had made a notation that there was a building on the lot in question which is located at least partially on the shore road allowance that is the subject of the application, and so councilors asked that staff would research the matter and come back with a report. And so we have a report from our planning assistant, Paula Macri, which explains sort of the history of this. It's in your package, and I think at this point we can just open it up to, I don't know, Madam CAO, if you want to comment on it at all first, but if you do, please go ahead. Otherwise, then we'll open it up for questions.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll be brief. It's a one-page memo, and it basically describes to the best of our knowledge, how the house got on the Shore Road allowance. It was approved and by the CBO of the time. There's some question. There's a couple of at one point it talks about 50 feet setback. Another site plan says 62 feet from the lake, but that's probably not as important as the fact that there was a number of inspections done. So the municipality was well aware it was located where it is. We found by our research that we did that they didn't get an occupancy or final inspection, but that's easily taken care of, and the CBO will be handling that, and he doesn't expect any issues. Typically, he's looking for safety concerns at this stage because people have occupied the residence for some time. And the question about where is the septic, that was a good question that came up, and it is actually on the property currently owned by the Jantzes, and it's 43 feet from Omadon Lane. Going towards the lake, so it's well into the property currently owned. So hopefully this is helpful and answers some of the questions that probably should have been answered first time around. But there we are. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Oh, thank you, Michelle. Are there any questions in regards to this report?
Mr. Mayor, I would have Sorry. Go ahead,
Sorry.
Mr. Brian.
Just a quick one. With this building being built on the shore allowance, and I think it said that the building permit was never completed, and an occupancy permit wasn't given, from what I read.
That's correct, yeah.
So does that mean that the MPAC assessment wouldn't be up to date? We wouldn't be collecting the proper amount of taxes for this property?
The MPAC assessment is up to date, and I can't tell you how that happened because typically the trigger is occupancy and final, but it is assessed at what we would consider the appropriate value, not vacant land.
Okay, thank you.
But that is, Councillor Woods, that's a very good question, and I asked the question earlier in the day of staff to just check and see so that we would have an answer. That's anyway. That the same thing occurred to me. I wondered if, by the way, if it was assessed properly. By the way, you may be aware that MPAC periodically sends people out on the ground to take a look at properties. So even if their record showed that it was a vacant lot or something, or they had no record of completion of building from us, they would still go down probably through the whole subdivision and go lot to lot and just kind of check and see if what they see actually matches the records they have. And so if they notice something, if they notice that a building is substantially completed, then they will do an assessment and update the assessment and send it to the owners. And so they don't, I guess what I'm saying is they don't rely 100% on us telling them when a building is completed. Any other questions about this application, about this particular application? Okay, well, if there are none...
Councillor Lamb, I was going to ask the same question. So the sad part, and I'm glad, I guess, that somehow MPAC caught up in this situation, but certainly the system is such that final inspections and occupancy permits are issued on time, which then, does trigger MPAC to assess the property. If somehow they were out wandering around a survey and found this one, that's really no excuse for an occupancy permit to be 8 years in delinquency if I've got my dates right. So I guess we'll move on for this one. But what it does say is what I've been saying and many councillors have been saying for years, is that we have to get all our permits and building permits over the years caught up and up to date, because this same sort of thing may be happening, frequently in our municipality. So I don't need to talk to that anymore, but it's a serious matter that we need to turn attention to, and the building department needs to turn attention particularly to it in the winter when they're not as busy as they are in the summer. So thank you. That's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments or questions?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, Councilor McEwen here.
Go ahead.
My understanding is that a finaling on a property is the request of the owner. So if they don't request it, it's really a catch-22 under the building code. But certainly keeping track of them, as Councilor Lamb alludes to, certainly on an annual basis is certainly beneficial potentially to the municipality. Thank you.
That's a good point. What is done in most municipalities, in my experience, is that when you get a building permit, you are you are given an estimated time of completion, and the estimated time of you arrive at an estimated time of completion, which is on the file. And I mean, it can always take longer, especially conditions prevent you from doing a certain type of building or finishing something on time. But normally what happens is the building department will say to you, well, if we don't hear from you, and you haven't done anything, we're going to close your permit, and you'll have to apply for it again, or something of that sort, to try to put the onus on the ratepayer to keep the department appraised of where they are. But normally speaking, you would have a bring forward date associated with a building permit if there's no activity on it, and somebody would reach out and say, well, what's going on? As Councillor Lamb has indicated previously, we have had situations where buildings were essentially, that I was aware of personally, where a building had been completed essentially, but the building department had not updated their files, for the building official had not updated the files for whatever reason, and hopefully that is not happening these days. I have much more confidence that we're getting on top of them.
Mr. Mayor, one more quick question. Councilor Woods. So who does the responsibility fall on when someone's going to build a building on a property to make sure that the lot lines where they would be according to the building? Like, would that fall on the CBO?
Well, I would say yes. Do you want to respond to that, CAO?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, Councillor Woods, you're correct. Typically, it's the CBO, and this is usually checked with a reasonable amount of accuracy at the first inspection, as to has the building been placed where it was intended to be, in terms of front yard, side yard, and rear yard setbacks. And if not, then there's options like minor variances, or if it's off by a foot, that usually isn't problematic if it's a large lot. But yes, typically it's the CBO that would do that, and the owner too has some responsibility as well as the builder. Everybody has the plans. Hopefully that helps.
Yeah. And do we require an updated survey of a property before something gets built on it?
Not typically, no.
There is a reference in the report to a survey that will take place next spring. That is with respect to the shore road allowance in front of the two lots that were part of that joint application, because that has not been surveyed before. But the purpose, and the surveyor may very well on the drawing show where the building is, but that the purpose isn't to locate the building. The purpose is to survey the shore road allowance. which is necessary in order to calculate what the value of it is and so on. So anyway, are there any other questions about this particular one? If not, we could reconvene into our regular meeting. That's the only planning item, correct? Yes. Okay. Motion to reconvene to regular session, please.
I'll make the motion, Councillor Lamb.
Thank you, Councillor Lamb. And I heard somebody else.
I'll second, Councillor McEwen.
Oh, thank you, Councillor McEwen. It is 6:51 p.m. And unless somebody has an objection, we will return to regular session and the rest of our agenda. The first of which is under matters arising from Committee of the Whole. We have the motion which you saw last week before it was deferred. I'll read it. Whereas an application has been filed by Rebecca Jancy for the closing and acquisition of the Shore Road Allowance fronting Lot 10, Plan 42M-625 in the geographic township of Mackenzie, and whereas there are no official plan conflicts, environmental concerns, or planning issues with respect to this application, now therefore be it resolved that the Council of the Municipality of Whitestone has no objection to the closure and acquisition of the Shore Road Allowance fronting Lot 10, Plan 42M-625 in the geographic township of Mackenzie, as applied for by Rebecca Jancy, subject to the provision that only the lands above the controlled high water mark be available for staffing up and transfer, and 2, payment of all associated costs and fees. Can I get a mover and seconder, please?
I'll move, Councillor McEwen.
Thank you, Councillor McEwen. Seconded by?
I'll second.
Thank you, Councillor Gorham Matthews. Any further discussion? If not, I will ask the clerk to call the roll, please.
I will. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Gorham Matthews?
Yes.
Councillor Lamb?
Yes.
Councillor McEwen?
Yes.
Councillor Woods?
Yes.
Mayor Comrie?
Yes. Thank you very much. That item is approved. And that takes us to the consent agenda because we have no public meeting. So, in the consent agenda, we have the minutes. Let's see, sorry, we have 2 sets of minutes. Regular council meeting of September 8th, 2020. And we also have the minutes of the Whitestone Public Library Board from June 17th, 2020. And then we have the list of unfinished business, which we can talk about afterwards. So can I get a mover and seconder for the consent agenda?
I'll make the motion, Councillor Lamb.
Thank you. Seconded by?
I'll second, Councillor Woods.
Councillor Woods. Is there any discussion or any comments or questions about any of those minutes? Or?
Yeah, Councillor Lamb.
Yes.
I'd like to add under unfinished business. At one point we talked about, and Mr. Hickey's actually on the line, but at one point we talked about a handy kind of guide that we had put out earlier with that could be stuck on refrigerators, etc. with respect to like good practices around lakes and things like that, and some of the rules and that sort of thing. And that's sort of slipped a bit. I think Mr. Hickey had agreed to, since he had something to do with it in the past, to assist staff with updating that. So I'd like that to go on the list as an unfinished item. We're, of course, late in the year now, so something like this is best to go out early in the spring. But, you know, we can devise something that can give ratepayers a early indication of, you know, the rules. And, you know, I don't know whether that can or can't be expanded, for instance, to some of the fire rules that we'll be discussing tonight, or whether that's appropriate, or maybe a second one is necessary, but something that can be on their refrigerators, even with things. We've got one now that says, you know, when the landfill hours are, and we're asked all the time, you know, when they are, or the library hours, or that sort of thing. But something along those lines needs to be put back into unfinished business. And there may be other ideas of handy information that should be accessible to our ratepayers fairly quickly. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Are there other comments about either the minutes or the unfinished business? Can I call the question then? Is there any objection to us approving the consent agenda?
Since I'm the mover, with the addition of what I had suggested.
Okay, I've actually noted that your suggestion, Councillor Lamb, under matters arising from the consent agenda, which are which is our next heading, but that's fine.
Okay. Okay.
It will be noted in the when you see the minutes, you will see a note of it as to your suggestion.
Good. Thank you.
With that, can I declare this motion carried? Okay, thank you. We have approved the consent agenda, and we will add the Councillor Lamb's item on the communications card to the unfinished business. Where are we next? Accounts payable. I'm just just flipping my pages ahead here to get to the. Can I get a mover and seconder, please, for the motion that the Council of the Municipality of Whitestone hereby approves accounts payable in the amount of $339,055.53 and payroll in the amount of $28,137.52 for payment.
I'll first up, Councillor McEwen.
Thank you. Councillor McEwen moves, seconded by?
I'll second, Councillor Woods.
Thank you. Any discussion about the payables?
Yes, Councillor Lamb, I have one on the first page, number 35261, Robert Brierly, refund of overpayment, $42.8175. All it says is AP trade beside it, so I don't know what that is.
Can you answer the question, Madam Clerk?
Yes. Councillor Lamb, could you give me that check number again, please?
Yeah, it's 35261.
All right, give me a moment.
Leaving conference.
Doug Hickey.
I could probably help with this one. This is.
Thank you. It's signed by Patricia Allen. That's Judy Main, Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead, please, Judy.
Worship. This was a payment for a tax installment. The installment was $43 and I think 25 cents. And this gentleman paid $4,325. So this is that amount less the $43 that he actually paid. So she mistakenly pressed it with number 4325, which ended up being $4,000 instead of $43.
We should just send them a letter saying thank you.
Thank you, Judy.
Would that everyone would be so generous? Yes. Thank you. Is that? Are there other questions on other items?
I have one, Councillor Woods.
Go ahead, please.
35278 LNK maintenance. I know what it's for. I understand all that, but I'm reading after it says Fairholme, it says wages and grass cutting. I'm questioning as to why it would say wages if this person's a contractor. Wages to me would mean that they were an employee of the township.
Yes, you're correct. I'm not sure why it says wages. I'm looking at all the invoices, and they're clearly contracted services for cemetery work and a little bit of grass cutting that for the municipality. Or is it all it looks like it's all
leaving conference.
So,
Judith May.
We lost Judy. So yes, it's all cemetery. All not sure why it says wages, but good point. Good catch.
And there is the odd thing like that in our chart of accounts.
Yes,
you'll discover. Yes, those are the labels. Other items in payables. Can I call the question then, or can I ask the clerk then to call the question and to approve the accounts payable?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Gorham-Matthews?
Yes.
Councillor Lamb?
Yes.
Councillor McEwen?
Yes.
Councillor Woods?
Yes.
Mayor Comrie?
Yes.
Joining conference.
Judith May.
Welcome back, Judy.
Thank you. I dropped my phone.
Yeah, we figured something like that. That's all right. You didn't miss too much.
Right.
The payables have been now approved, and we're moving on to bylaws. And we have tonight we have tonight 3 bylaws, and I apologize. I should have mentioned this at the beginning. But bylaw 11.1 was to approve an amending consent agreement for the this is for the it's referred to as a 5126 agreement associated with the Nash's development on Gooseneck, and there was some last minute correspondence with Scott Nash, I guess just this morning, and so we're not ready. Our staff are not ready to recommend what's in front of you, and so we'd like to defer this one until the meeting on when is it? October the 3rd, 4th? So the next meeting, anyway.
October 5th, Mr. Mayor.
October 5th, yeah, sorry. So I guess what I should ask for is a motion to defer.
I'll make the motion, Councillor Lamb.
Thank you.
Not second.
Seconded by? with Councillor Wood. Is there any discussion? Okay, is there any objection to the motion? If not, we will hold it over until October the 5th in order to give our staff time to look at the proposed wording from the Nashes and make sure that everything's in order. All right. Just make a note here, till October 5th. Okay, so that that takes that one off the list. We have the next one is item 11.2, which is a bylaw to close and stop up the Shore Road allowance in front of the Simpsons property on Wawashkesh. So I will read the motion to you
Alexa,
that I'm looking for. That bylaw 50-2020, being a bylaw to close and stop up that part of the original Shore Road allowance along the shores of Wawashkesh Lake in front of Lot 29, concessions 4 and 5, and in front of the original road allowance between concessions 4 and 5, in front of Lot 29 in the geographic township of Mackenzie, now municipality of Whitestone, be given a first and second reading as attached. And whereas it's been given a first and second reading with no amendments, be it resolved that bylaw 50-2020 be given a third and final reading and enacted as of this date. So could I have a mover and seconder for this one, and we'll open it up for discussion, please.
I'll move, Councillor Woods.
Thank you, Councillor Woods. Seconded by?
I'll second it.
Councillor Gorman-Matthews. Thank you. Any discussion? Or any comments? Mrs. Simpson is on the phone, I believe.
Yes, nothing from me.
Okay. Well, if there's nothing, no questions or comments, I will ask our clerk to call the roll, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Gorman-Matthews?
Yes.
Councillor Lamb?
Yes.
Councillor McEwen?
Yes.
Councillor Woods?
Yes.
And Mayor Comrie?
Yes. Okay, thank you. That bylaw is approved. So the next one, item 11.3, is our old friend, the fees bylaw. And we have, as you'll notice,
Leaving conference.
Simpson?
An amended version in front of us that contains basically, I believe, the clerk can confirm this, but I believe the only changes were the three changes that council requested to Schedule B, which was the landfill fees and schedule. And so that's what you have in front of you this evening for approval. The motion I'm looking for is that bylaw 40-2020, being a bylaw to impose fees or charges for services provided by the municipality of Whitestone, was given a first and second reading at the regular council meeting of August 4th, 2020, and further read a third time, passed and properly signed and sealed this 21st day of September 2020, and numbered 40-2020. So we haven't changed the number, but it did get two readings back in, as the motion says, in August. Can I get a mover and seconder, please?
I'll move, Councillor McEwen.
Thank you. Seconded by?
I'll second. Councillor
Thank
Gore
you,
Matthews.
Councillor. Thank you, Councillor Gore Matthews. Any discussion?
Mr. Mayor, Councillor Woods.
Go ahead.
Under the note 1 where we put in IC&I or contractor, I think it should just say contractor. We shouldn't reference ICI in this. Contractor takes care of all of them. If it just says contractor, then it handles every type of contractor.
Okay, were you not the person though who introduced the subject of trying to define this at the last meeting?
So what I did was I explained, because the original one that we passed, it said no commercial contract.
You're right. You're right.
Right. If we use contractor, it will cover it. But this is the fees bylaw, which I understand. But we still don't have another bylaw saying contractor. We have one that says commercial.
Well, Madam CIO, do you have any comment on this?
I think my comment is that it's not hurting that IC&I is there, and you know, IC&I is used in waste management circles, as you know, Councillor Woods suggested at the last meeting. So my opinion is that it doesn't hurt. The reference to IC&I or contractor and or contractors does not hurt to be in the fee schedule. And you know, as I've spoken to different councillors about our fees bylaw, and is it absolutely perfect? Is it absolutely what the municipality should have? You know, we hope that it's really close, but you know, we'll be looking at the fees and charges bylaw once a year going forward, which is fairly typical in any municipality. And if things need to be adjusted or realigned or reworded, you know, we can do that at a later date. But if you're asking my opinion, it's not hurting to have it there. It sort of reinforces that it's the IC&I sector that we're protecting our landfills from at this point.
Mr. Mayor, might I have clarified what IC&I means again?
If I may, Mr. Mayor, it's reference to industrial, commercial, and institutional. It's the acronym for those 3 words.
I'm not sure if this is Councillor Wood's concern. We are not suggesting that institutions or commercial organizations or industrial organizations cannot bring waste, but they can't bring construction or demolition waste. Construction flat, so the sort of highest order filter here is the construction slash demolition. And I suppose what we could have said is, instead of what it says there, is we could have said no construction slash demolition waste will be accepted from persons other than you know, householders or something like that. Because down later on, of course, we talk about the condition, the circumstances in which we will take it from households, but we're not taking it from, you know, we're not taking that particular type of waste from folks who are in the business of building or demolishing, regardless of what sector. So I mean, I don't really disagree with what Councillor Woods is saying. I think it probably doesn't add anything, but it seems to refer to ICI. But it also seems to me that there's no danger of somebody saying, like for example, somebody who has a business like the Duck Rock or Peter Napton or somebody like this who has a business that generates waste. We're not saying we won't take any waste from you. We're just saying we don't want to take construction or demolition waste if you're doing it as a contractor for other people. If that's what you're doing, you're supposed to find a way to dispose of it independently. So that's the. I think the intent is clear. But anyway, what do the other councillors think? I mean, we can take ICI out and simply say no contractor construction demolition waste, or no construction demolition waste from contractors will be accepted if that's, you know. We've kind of been over this several times, and it's tough to come up with the best wording. Go ahead, Councillor McEwen.
Yeah, since I moved it, I'd be okay with taking out the IC and I, and just no contractor construction demolition debris, including shingles, will be accepted, other than from householders. If that's necessary. I don't know if the householder part is even necessary, but it just adds a little clarity, I think.
What do the other councillors think? What would you like to do?
Well, Councillor Lamb, I don't care whether IC&I is in or not. I fail to see why it says including shingles. The only light I'll give to it is that I take it that under notes 2 and 3, which refer to mostly household waste, that a small amount of shingles is allowed if a person loses a few shingles in a storm or something and wants to put those as part of their household construction waste, then that will be allowed to go into the landfill site, because it does not exclude shingles in notes 2 or 3. Who's got a dog barking?
Mr. Mayor, I might add one comment if Council Lamb finished. This note 1 is pertaining to contractor. It's contractor, construction, demolition. And under the contractor, we don't allow shingles.
No, I realize that, but all I'm pointing out is a small amount of shingles are allowed on number 2, under number for households.
Right.
Okay, that's fine. I'm just clarifying.
Yeah, I think so, Mr. Lamb.
Yeah, we discussed that previously, and that's my recollection of what we agreed to.
Good. Okay, thank you.
So I guess I'm trying to get a little bit of a straw vote here. To me, it doesn't matter if ICI is there or not, but I guess we should try to make the majority happy. I don't think it's not going to affect our policy really, whether it's there or not.
Well, why don't you just put no contractor construction, demolition, debris will be accepted, including shingles, period.
Yeah. So
sure.
You want to take out IC&I?
Yeah.
Councillor Gorham Matthews, do you have an opinion on this?
I'm pretty neutral. I think the intention of it is still there either way. So I'm happy with the way it is. If you want to take it out, I can go either way.
Well, I think I hear 3 people saying, let's take it out. So
take it out.
Yeah. So if I can modify our bylaw here, or modify the motion if the mover and seconder are agreeable. I can modify the motion to say Now help me out, Madam Clerk. We got to do. We gave it first and second reading. I guess all we need to do is we can leave the motion exactly the way it is, and then just say subject to
the removal of reference to IC&I.
Removal of the reference. I like that. Yes, reference to IC&I from Schedule B.
Right. And if I may, Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to remind you of our discussion about when the bylaw comes into effect. I know we haven't got there.
Okay. And so that's interesting. Now I got to go back and look. When did it say, does the bylaw actually says when it takes effect?
That's right. It says the
Correct.
effective date, Mr. Mayor, is October 1st. And that's a holdover from our September 18th.
Yeah.
It may be appropriate to make it October 15th so that it gives staff some time to get some information on our website and Facebook and out to the people that would be utilizing these schedules.
Okay. Thank you for reminding me about that. Does anyone you wanted to make it October 1st? You said?
No, it says October 1st now. I'm suggesting October 15th.
Oh, October 15th. Sorry, what date would it be? The
effective date of the bylaw, the new fee schedules, would be will take effect October 15th, 2020.
Oh, October 15th. Okay, yeah. So
yes, 1-5.
That's a Thursday. I guess that's good enough. All right. So, comments again from councillors. Are you okay if we add one more thing to this motion that says and with an effective date of October 15th, just
Mr.
to give
Mayor,
us a little more time. Yes.
One quick addition. This is a question. Should we not have a note somewhere in here saying that these fees don't apply to the municipality of Whitestone? Because if we bring any construction waste in for us, technically we shouldn't be, unless we say that it doesn't apply to us. I know there's a few other municipalities and their fee schedules they have where their township is omitted from the fees or any of the rules of bringing stuff to the dumps.
If I may, Mr. Mayor, one thing I can say is that the construction demolition debris from the library was not taken to our landfill site, so we were quite respectful of the council's wishes in terms of C&D.
I just meant if there was I just meant if there was, a small job that we got staff to do. If we put in that Whitestone wasn't part of this, then they could still bring, a small amount in.
Without having to pay a fee, you mean?
Exactly.
Well, I guess that's a good point. Can we just deal with things one at a time? I was starting to write with an effective date of October 15th. Does anyone have an objection to me adding that to the motion, particularly the mover and seconder?
I do not have a problem with October the 15th.
No problem.
So date of October 15th, 2020. And so how do you feel about this? Should we We could add a clause that says, and the municipality of Whitestone will not be subject to fees. Now, mind you, this whole fees bylaw, there's other. I mean, what is it? What is our practice, for example, with buildings and other such things? I mean, do we pay a fee for a building permit? We don't, right?
That is correct, Mr. Mayor. We waive the fee. Yep.
So, I mean, is that a standard thing? It doesn't say anywhere what the policy is. So, I mean, we don't charge ourselves a fee to use the community center either, right?
That's right. We're not doing business with ourselves because we would, we could have paid a fee for the building permit for the library, and it would have come out of our own funds. So it's
in and out.
It didn't make sense. Yeah. It just becomes an administrative task for someone, and it just doesn't make sense. So, but.
Mr. Councilman McEwen?
Yes.
I wonder if we need to put anything in there. I think while being respectful of what the items and stuff might be going to a landfill, it may or may not suit our landfills. It would be a staff, certainly, decision. But I think pretty much goes without saying that our staff could go in on an off day of the dump opening or otherwise and do clean up and deposit certain stuff in a respectful and proper way. I'm not sure it's necessary to put it in there. I don't see a real problem with putting an additional comment on. But I think we could float it the way it is.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
I guess, Mr. Mayor, I guess I got to think through this. So I'm thinking about stuff like, ditching material. We never put that in our landfill sites, do we? Which, when you do roads, you do ditches, and there's lots of material there, right? What do they do with that? I'm thinking big stuff like that.
Yes, Madam Clerk, please.
It may go into the landfill if it's close enough. If it's a good spot, because we can use it as cover material. It may go into the old pit. But you're right. We don't charge ourselves for it because it has value to us, and if we use it as cover for the landfill, then we don't have to purchase cover. So that's an example of.
Yeah, I guess I've got two sort of feelings on this. One, we should lead by example, right? If we had taken all our library waste from the building and thrown it in the landfill site, and we're telling contractors they can't, I'm not sure that's kind of proper. On the other hand, if we opened up an account with McDougall and tried to put our waste in there, I'm not sure they'd be too happy with the municipal waste going in there. So, I don't know the proper answer to this, but I think we have to be very careful as to what we dump in our landfill sites, particularly York Street, because a lot of this has to do with preserving our landfill sites, right? So I think we have to bear that in mind as we go forward, right? Whether it's municipal waste or otherwise. So those are my thoughts.
Okay. Well, is there any, Councillor Woods, are you, with the explanation that we have about not charging ourselves as a matter of administrative policy, are you okay with us leaving it out, not amending the bylaw itself to say that?
That's fine. Yep.
Okay, so let me read the motion in front of you. Whereas bylaw 40-2020, being a bylaw to impose fees or charges for services provided by the municipality of Whitestone, was given a first and second reading at the regular council meeting of August 4th, 2020. Be it further read a third time, passed and properly signed and sealed this 21st day of September and numbered 40-2020, subject to removal of the reference to institutional, commercial, and industrial waste from Schedule B thereto, and with an effective date of October 15th, 2020. That's moved and seconded. Any further discussion? If not, I will ask the clerk to take a roll call vote, please.
I will, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. Councillor Gorham-Matthews.
Yes.
Councillor Lamb.
Yes.
Councillor McEwen.
Yes.
Councillor Woods.
Yes.
And Mayor Comrie.
Yes. Thank you very much. And that brings us to 11.4, which is our open air burning bylaw. Can I get a motion, please, that bylaw 37-2020, being a bylaw to, it says regular, to regulate open air burning within the municipality of Whitestown, was given a first and second reading on this 21st day of September 2020 at the regular council meeting, and further be read a third time, passed and properly signed and sealed this 21st day of September 2020 and numbered 37-2020. Can I get a mover and seconder for this one, please?
I'll move it.
Thank you. Councillor Gorham-Matthews, seconded by?
I'll second. Councillor Woods.
Thank you. Discussion.
I'll go first. I think we've come a long way on this. I'm happy to see that in the new bylaw we'll be able to have open or daytime burning. So in effect we can have burning for recreational fires at any time, day or night, as long as the fire rating is below high. I guess once it reaches high, or when it reaches high, that my understanding is that no daytime burning will be allowed, but nighttime burning after 6 will be allowed. And then, of course, when it hits extreme, then there's a fire ban on for everything. So I'm kind of okay with it the way it is. My caution is I think it's going to be very difficult to get people used to this idea that you can now happily burn during the day if you want to, have a recreational fire at 2 in the afternoon. But as soon as it reaches high, somehow we're going to have to communicate to people that you can't burn during the day. I think that'll be awfully hard to regulate that portion, because certainly right now they understand when the fire ban, goes up, they're not allowed to fire, and at least on Whitestone where I am, if anyone lights a fire during a fire ban, they're usually told right away to put the fire out by their neighbors. And so I don't know what's going to happen when it goes, high, whether they're going to say, hey, you can't burn it at 2 o'clock in the afternoon like you could last week. I just find that a little difficult to see how we're going to regulate that. But I do respect the fire chief's opinion that, when the fire rating goes to high, that, there's a greater chance of a fire, obviously, than when the ratings are lower than that. So I can see the logic of what's being done here. So I'm not going to, again, as I say, this isn't a mountain I'm going to die on. I just think that we're going to have, some educational problems and some growing pains with that portion of it. And, I guess we do have the ability to change this at any time. So if during the first year we run into too many problems, then I guess we can take a second look at it. Other than that, I'm happy with the bylaw. it still maintains permits without a cost, which I think is important. So I think a lot of work has gone into this, and I think a lot of work by council has gone into to get it as good as we can, and certainly improved over the last one. So those are generally my thoughts. Thank you.
Well, thank you. We have an answer, Councillor Lamb, to the issue that you've raised, and I wonder if I can ask the fire chief maybe to explain what it is. And it has to do with the electronic permits. So Bob, do you want to?
Yeah, he told me that, but I think it's important that he tell everyone else that.
Yeah. Okay. Bob, do you want to weigh in?
Yeah, sure. Thanks. So once we go to the new electronic permitting system, when the fire danger rating goes from moderate to high, everybody that has a permit will get an email saying that effective tonight at 12:01, the fire danger rating is high and there's no daytime burning. So everyone that has a permit will get that email, and everybody will know, or hopefully know. That's our plan.
And the same, by the way, applies if there is an actual fire ban or we end up in a restricted fire zone. Those notifications go out automatically, electronically, to everybody who holds a permit to say total fire ban in place or whatever, no permits, all permits are suspended, and no these things cannot this burning cannot take place. So people should get they should get a reminder and not necessarily rely on driving past the big sign that says fire danger is high or no burning or whatever, you know.
Well, the reality is, and if I might just finish off at this, that's the system we're going to, and I appreciate that, but that's not the system we're in right now. As far as over in Lakeshore Acres, where I am, we rely on the president of our association to go down when there's a fire ban on and put a sign on the where all the names are, et cetera, at Canning Road. And I'm just saying that until that new electronic system comes in, and there's lots of people may not have an email address to send it to also, less and less in this world, but still there are some. It's going to be difficult for, in our case, Jerry Robson to go down and hang some other sign when it goes to high to say no daytime burning, but nighttime burning is allowed. I'm just saying that's going to be awkward for him, and I suspect others, unless we can really come up with some really good verbiage on signs that are big enough, right? Because there's not a lot of room on a lot of these signs. Ours are filled up with names right now. So anyway, that's what I'm more concerned about. I like the new electronic system, but it's not going to reach out to everyone. But it'll certainly be a marked improvement. So.
Okay, thank you. Are there other comments about or questions about the bylaw?
Yeah, Councillor McEwen, Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead.
Well, the only real major significance to this bylaw over 2003 is the fact that there is a permit required, even for daytime cooking and warmth, which was not covered off in the previous one. But it's certainly complemented by the fact that people now can, under the rules and regulations, have a fire through the day for their own personal enjoyment and cooking, and et cetera. So it's a handoff in that respect. I'm sure there will be some dissenters out there. I've had a few calls and comments about a permit period. But we've certainly had, as Councillor Lamb mentioned, sufficient time to work our way through this. And I feel for fire people and responders out there, considering the traffic we have these days, partly because of COVID and our population seasonally is increasing. There are concerns about unusual weather situations, which is a global thing. So I think moving forward, it's taken some time for some of us to come around to agreeing with the total package. Changing the actual charge fees to $200 and letting the ministry, I guess it is, actually determine what they will be kind of provincially. I think that was a good solution or a good suggestion also. So I think I'm finally coming to grips with it. Thank you.
Thank you. Other comments?
Yes, Mr. Mayor?
Go ahead.
Yeah, I appreciate all the work that's gone into this. I thank you and Bob for all your help with this. I just wanted to say that, we've met a lot of the complaints that we had about this bylaw and that we've kept it free, that we've actually listened to everybody and for all the people that wanted to be able to burn daytime for a campfire and for just enjoyment of sitting around the fire. We've met that complaint as well. I think a lot of people didn't realize that they needed a permit in the first place for that, so I think that's where some of the confusion came in, and with a little more education, through our newsletter and other things that we approach, we can bring everybody up to speed on that, and it's going to be an easier process for everyone to get the permit as well with having them online. So thank you very much for, making the adjustments that we could, but I do believe we still need the permit system as well, so thank you.
Okay, thanks. So, Councillor Woods, do you have any comments?
I'm pretty much the same as what everyone else has said. I'd like to thank everyone that worked on this. I know it was a lot of work, and we did get a lot of complaints. And the one good thing about this is education. Everyone got involved. Everyone kept talking, and now more people are informed. And I think the addition of the daytime burn is great. That should keep a lot of people happy that didn't realize you weren't supposed to have them, and now we can. The permit, absolutely. I love the idea of keeping the permit system and keeping it free. I think it'll make it easier for everyone.
Okay, thank you. Are you ready for the?
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
Hi. Sorry, just one correction on the bylaw.
Oh yeah.
Just before you pass it. Under the definitions A, you didn't change where it says campsite. Remember, we were going to change that because your residence isn't a campsite. Campfires mean an open-air fire in a campsite.
Oh, I thank you. Good catch.
I don't know.
We were supposed to remove that because and I'll explain to you why this happened. If you go back to the previous version of the bylaw, we were making a distinction between a campfire and a fire for cooking and warmth. And what we realized and what we heard from many of the folks who commented on the bylaw was that really the fires that we're talking about are these fires that people have that they use for both cooking and socialization, and sometimes warmth, but warmth is kind of covered in there, and so we combined them all together. But the campfire definition came actually from the actual Forest Fire Prevention Act reg, because the MNRF talks about campfires with respect to fires that are in a campsite. So it's either a campsite that is organized by somebody who runs a campground, or it's a campfire that you would have when you're out camping in the wilderness. But they had a whole set of special rules. They still have a whole set of special rules around campsites, and operators of campsites can have fires under certain circumstances if they meet certain requirements that are in that regulation. So, but that we didn't want to get into all of that kind of stuff. So, the words "in a campsite" from Section 1A should be removed, and the fire chief is right. So I'm going to, again, put a little clause on the end here, if you don't mind, and hopefully the mover and seconder will agree to this. I will say subject to the removal of the words in a campsite, from, that is section 1A, sub A. Has everybody got that? Subject to the removal of the words in a campsite from section 1A.
I have another one, Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead.
If you go to Schedule A, everybody gets a fine of $200, except if you're number 18 and you use an incinerator closer than 2 meters to a flammable material, then the fine is $2,160,000. So I would.
Oh dear, I don't know how that happened, but yeah.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. I'm not about to buy an incinerator just in case I put it within 2 meters of a flammable material. So that's got to be changed to $200.
Okay, and to correction of the suggested set fine for item 18. Item 18, which says, what does it say? Use incinerator, yes. Use incinerator closer than incinerator.
2 meters.
Yep, closer than 2 meters.
To flammable material.
Meters to flammable material. And that should read $200.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so thank you for those. Are there any other mistakes that you noticed? Okay, can I ask then, are you ready for the question? Can I ask the clerk to call the roll, please, on this one?
Hello, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Gorham-Matthews?
Yes.
Councillor Lamb?
Yes.
Councillor McEwen?
Yes.
Councillor Woods?
Yes.
And Mayor Comrie?
Yes. All right, thank you. That motion is approved, and thank you all for your work and contributions to this. I was just to kind of let you know what happens next. The way this works is that we have to forward a copy of the bylaw that has been approved by council with those amendments to the Ministry of the Attorney General, and they will verify. They check it over. I don't think they'll have any problems with it, but they will with the wording of it. But they will also refer the fines to a judge to determine what, because those fines are under the Provincial Offences Act, and they do try to have some consistency. And we think that those numbers will be approved the way they are. So but we have to wait back to hear from them until we can actually proclaim the bylaw. And then the next things that will happen after that is, first of all, to develop communication materials. They won't, I mean, we're almost at the end of the fire season for 2020, so it will not likely come into effect until January 1st or something like this. But we do have some time, but we should definitely prepare a good set of communication materials to everybody so that they understand what's going on. And then the next thing that will happen is we will bring to you a set of recommendations related to the electronic permitting, because we really have to start next year with electronic permitting. We won't be able to continue to use our main permit issuer, which is the Duck Rock, in 2021. So there are a couple of companies that offer this service. They appear to be quite comparable. They have slightly different fee structures, but we'll bring that material to council for inclusion in the budget for 2021. So those are the next. The job isn't quite done yet. Those are the next steps. Just to give you a heads up on that. But hopefully we will be we will have this in full operation as intended in 2021. So thank you and that brings us to staff reports, of which there are none. So we can now go to business matters, and you will see that there is a little piece of work that we did with respect to the new docks in at the waterfront in Dunchurch. And I will ask our CAO clerk to introduce this particular subject, which is she can. You've probably seen the report, but she can give you the background on how this came about, and then we'll take a motion to receive it for information.
Thank you. Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. As most of council knows, there was a funding in our capital budget this year for an additional dock, and with some work with Tim Tilson and Mayor Comrie and State Councillor Lamb and Councillor McEwen, the decision was made to put this new dock as close as we can to the north end of our property as we possibly could. And when we applied for a dock permit, which we have to apply for permits because we just don't have to pay for them, it was brought to our attention by the building official that it was an environmentally sensitive zone based on the zoning map, official plan. So anyway, we looked at some options. Mayor Comrie talked to John Jackson, and in turn he offered a couple of options. And the most appropriate option was to hire a firm, and we used these folks from North Bay who are quite reputable, to actually look and to see if in fact the mapping was correct. And as you can see, that there are some things that we need to be aware of, but it's quite acceptable to put a dock there. She indicated that should be occur anytime, recommend to occur anytime except April 15th to June 15th. So we'll have to manage our dock installation around that time frame, but it goes to show that we definitely have to look at our mapping whenever we look at environmentally sensitive zones to make sure it's correct. And if we do an amendment to the zoning bylaw, which we're looking at a few amendments, then this can be part of that and just update some of the mapping. So I won't go into the full report. It's very well written, and it's nicely presented, and the meat of the report is in the conclusion on page 9, which means we can put our dock in next year. We purchased it sitting in the roads depot. We'll be able to put it in next year, and we'll be able to utilize it. So hopefully that helps, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, it does. Thank you. Thank you very much, Michelle. I guess we could, as a council, have simply amended the zoning and said, this is really not environmentally sensitive, and the advice that we got from John Jackson was that was it's something that came off an aerial survey that was done that showed that there was some aquatic vegetation in the area, and so when the municipality was created and they were going around assigning zones to various areas, any place they saw that on the map, it got marked EP and environmentally protected zone, but John's initial comment was, this has never been groundproof and it's probably not accurate. And some of you will know that in other cases we have come to that conclusion about other areas that were on different lakes that were similarly marked, where there didn't appear to be any substantiation for the designation. But we thought in this particular case that the best thing to do was to go out and have that particular designation, if you were groundproof, in other words, have someone who's competent come out and say, look, you don't need to worry about this. And in fact, the reviewer from the environmental company said, floating docks in general do not interfere with fish habitat for the kind of fish that are in Whitestone Lake. And so, but at least we, with that kind of a report in hand from a professional, we're in a defensible position, and we don't have somebody else coming along and saying, well, you make us do something about an environmentally protected zone, but you're not setting a good example for the municipality. So we made the decision to spend a little bit of money and get this report, and I'm happy that the outcome was, because we didn't know, of course, for sure, but I'm happy that the outcome has confirmed our suspicions, and we are now able to proceed to put it where we really wanted to and don't have to hunt around for some less suitable location. So anyway, once again, we should be good to go with this in 2021, and that will, the new docks, which, as Michelle pointed out, are already they're already in the works yard, they will substantially increase the capacity that we have for boats to come to the Dunchurch Town Center and take advantage of the facilities that exist there. So anyway, are there any? I guess what we should do is get a mover and seconder to receive this report.
I'll move it, Councillor Lamb.
Thank you, Councillor Lamb. Seconded by?
I'll second, Councillor Woods.
Woods, thank you. Is there any discussion or questions?
Yeah, Councillor Lamb. I'm happy to the result here, since the dock system is sitting down on Farley's Road. So it's going to be a welcome addition to the lake, just because, of course, the big dock is you get one boat in there and it's all jammed up. So a couple of comments. Where we wanted to initially put this dock was down at the very north end, and that big tree down there was to come down. I don't know whether it's down yet or not, but for people's information, when you look at the far end of that tree and look inside, it's gutted inside, so it's going to fall down pretty soon if it doesn't get cut down, even for safety reasons. So once that tree comes down, that's the reason for it, in case you start getting calls about, destroying the environment and that kind of stuff. So the other thing I want to, I'm hopeful that we can get this dock up, weather dependent, before April 15th, so we don't have to wait till after June 15th, because a lot of people were expecting it this year. So, of course, we can't put the dock in if the weather doesn't permit. And the final thing I just want to say on that whole complex down there is last week the new loading dock went in for boats at the community center, and I think our people did it, and they did a great job. I've already had 3 calls from people who I guess it must be operational because they said it was just tremendous to take their boats out. So anyway, okay, thank you.
Can I ask Michelle? Would you address the tree? Would you mind?
Oh, I would.
So everybody else?
Yes. So part of the tree actually has been removed. The remainder of the tree will be removed in the winter. They'll drop it on the lake with the ice and then pull it. Obviously, not leave it there and pull it back in. So you're right. It's not a particularly healthy tree, and it'll be good to have it out of the way.
Excellent.
And if I may, Mr. Mayor,
go ahead.
I'd like to with the mention of the new boat ramp. That was almost entirely the vision and the work of Brian Sheridan, but also Tim Tilson with the concrete and the expansion of the concrete. So certainly he deserves recognition for the good work, and it looks good. And it's one of the very first complaints I got when I started working at the municipality over 2 years ago about the boat ramp. So it is nice to see it. It'll be a solid boat ramping area for some time now.
I guess we should also note, and I was going to do this under councilor items, but since we're talking about the waterfront, part of this same in-water work that caused the boat launch to be closed for the bulk of the week. In fact, the first step on it was to actually replace the standpipes that the fire department uses. And some of you will know, I think, that over a year ago, somebody taking, running a boat trailer in or out of that boat ramp caught the end of the intake for the standpipe. The standpipe is how the fire trucks and the pumpers get their water pumped out of the lake, and so it got ripped out basically and damaged so that it couldn't be used. And it was supposed to be done. We were hoping to get it done last year, but there were problems with getting permits for the in-water work from the Ministry of Natural Resources and a variety of other things. So we've been going for almost a year, more than a year, I guess, without a standpipe there, without an easy connection for our fire department to pump water out of Whitestone Lake. They can do it, by getting a hose in the wintertime. They have to cut through the ice and so on. So that's what happened last year. But that piece of work also got done as the first stage in this big project. And so
joining conference.
We're now back in
Gary Monahan.
We're now back in business as far as the as far as getting water easily. And we actually have at the end of the day, we ended up with 2 standpipes. We have a 3-inch one, which is what was there before, and that standard 6-inch one, and in addition to that, the new 6-inch one, which is the one that you would connect the fire truck directly to. So that's done as well. Anyway, we have the motion on the. We do have a motion moved and seconded to accept this report from Frycorp Ecological Services. Can I call the question on this, or are there other comments?
Can I make
one
comment?
Oh, sure, absolutely.
I read through this report. It's very well done. There's just actually 2 little things that I picked out that I'm sure it was a clerical error on Fry's part, but in the introduction, the last sentence, to facilitate access for water access residents of Whitestone Lake. because I know this was circulated and everyone's reading it out in the public, I just wanted to clarify, this is for the general public's use, right? These docks, like anybody can use this dock?
That's correct.
Okay. That's all. That, and I can't wait for the dock to be put in so I can actually put my boat in.
Okay. Any other comments or questions on this report? Okay. Can I ask, is there any opposition to receiving it then for information? Hearing none, I'll declare that motion carried. While we were in the middle of that, I believe I heard someone else join the conference. Can I ask your name again, please?
It's Gary Monahan. I'm the president of the Lorimer Lake Association.
Gary Monahan?
Yes.
Okay, welcome, Gary. Good to have you on the call.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us. All right, that brings us then to correspondence, I believe. Now we have a number of items of correspondence here, and I'm going to turn to them. At least I was going to turn to them. They're on page 5, maybe. Yeah, here we are. Could I get a motion, please? Whereas Council of the Municipality of Whitestone has reviewed the correspondence items listed on page 5 of the September 21st, 2020 Council agenda, now therefore be it resolved that Council does hereby receive the correspondence items for information with the following extracted for further discussion action. So I'm going to ask you in a minute what ones you would like to pull out to discuss. But can I get a mover and seconder, please, to receive these?
I'll move, Councillor McEwen.
Thank you, Councillor McEwen. Seconded by?
I'll second, Councillor Woods.
Thank you very much. So the items that we have are listed on page 5 of the agenda, and there were 2 more that we added at the beginning, which were the 2 items from the ratepayers who are on Bolger Lake. So that's J. I guess they are items J and K. Am I right, Madam Clerk?
Yes, let me just double check that. To the top of it. Yes, items J and K, Mr. Mayor.
And I would like to very briefly speak to those particular the concern that they've raised. But what about other ones that you'd like to discuss?
I don't have any, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Lamb.
I don't have any.
Anybody else?
I'll go with J and K with you, Mr. Mayor.
All right. Well, sorry, I'm just looking. Okay, well, all right. If there's nothing else, then I will simply put down on the list of the ones to be discussed, J and K.
Joining conference.
I'll say Black/Round Lake because that's what they're really talking about. They're talking about Black and Round Lake camping. So, all right. I'll call the question on the motion, and then we'll discuss the items. Anyone opposed to receiving these items and discussing those too? Okay, thank you. So now we will I'll just give you a little bit of background. If you want more detail, I could probably I could probably ask our fire chief, who has is quite familiar with this situation. But as I think most of you know, there is a road, using the term very loosely, which is an extension of the Clear Lake Road past Clear Lake, and the next major point that you arrive at after traveling through it's a very, very rough trail through the bush and through muskeg and so on, takes you to Black Lake, which is where the high voltage hydro lines cross. And then if you go past that, and there is a campground of sorts at Black Lake, and if you sort of a homemade campground that's been made by wilderness campers there. It's not an official campground. It's Crown land, so people are allowed to be there, but anything that's been put there has been just put by various campers. So, and then the road continues on past that to Round Lake, and eventually goes up through a rather circuitous route to Bolger Landing, which is how people access Bolger and Cashagaba and Whites Lake by road. And the folks who are back in, who do have, we have probably about, it's not more than 50 cottages, I would say, on those 3 lakes that I mentioned. But that group has a cottagers association, which is called the Magnetawan Pioneers, and we have been in regular contact with them over the last several years. They're folks who, I guess, value the wilderness experience because they're pretty isolated back in there, anyway, they generally access, other than people who are able to fly in or whatever, generally access their cottages back there. And there are even a couple of by the way, a couple of permanent residents in there, but they access that property via this road that goes through the bush. In the wintertime, they use snowmobiles and so on. And there are numbers of folks who come up for kind of wilderness camping, and there have been, as you saw in the first letter that we received, there have been some behavior problems over the years. In fact, in the past, the Ministry of Natural Resources has in fact closed the campgrounds. But there are a lot of different ways that close this area to camping, I mean. But there are different ways that you can get access to it. You can get access, besides the Clear Lake Road, you can get access to it off the Bunny Trail to where they were bringing that, that extra power line in from the Henvey Inlet Wind Farm, and you can even get access to it from the hydro right-of-way down in McDougall. So groups of people will come with jeeps and various other vehicles, and they will run them up the hydro right-of-way, and they do what is sometimes referred to as mudding, because there's a lot of kind of muskeg, and the jeeps get stuck in there, and they pull them out, and everybody gets muddy and has a good time. Unfortunately, there's often too much drinking. There have been fires set there. Bob could comment on that. There have been a number of fires over the years. This summer we had a fatality in there because people, and some other accidents because people were just going too fast on the road and lost control and went into trees. Various things like that. So this is what the folks there are concerned about, and I wouldn't say that one of the letters suggests that there have been repeated sort of requests of council to do something about that. I wouldn't say that that's really an accurate statement. But there has been various discussion back and forth about what could be done. And I have on occasion raised the matter with the Ministry of Natural Resources, as has Chief Whitman, because it really is Crown land. I mean, it's in our municipality, but it's Crown land, and as with other Crown land, the public generally has the right to use it. So there is that. I mean, that's all I can tell you by way of background. I think we're kind of looking. Our hope is that we will be able to engage the ministry, and maybe the Ministry of Environment and Parks, I don't know, in a discussion about what could be done to improve the situation. People are carving up the bush. They're, setting fires everywhere and doing other things that it could eventually lead to problems for us in the municipality. But I guess we're looking for suggestions as to what we should be asking for and what kinds of things might be done to make it better. So that's. I thought it was worth, since we don't have too heavy an agenda, at least trying to get this on the table for your consideration. Are there any thoughts or comments people would like to make, or other information that you have about the situation? By the way, while you're thinking about that, I just received this week last week an invitation from Magnetawan Pioneers to join them at their annual meeting, which is being held the evening of September 30th, Wednesday, September the 30th, via Zoom. And I think this is probably their number one topic of discussion, or their topic of interest. I have no idea what I can tell them about it. They know what the problem is, so I'm not going to take time to explain that to them. But the other thing that they, of course, have an interest in is the Cashagaba Dam, which the Ministry of Natural Resources commissioned a study to determine what could be done with that. And you will perhaps recall that we have a small reserve associated with that. And I'm trying to get an update on the consultants have done their work and filed a report. They gave the M&R some design options, and that was back almost, I would say, I think it was almost before the COVID-19 pandemic hit. And so far we haven't got any indication from them as to what they think about all this. The ministry does. So I'm trying to get an answer out of them about that, what their thoughts are, or what they're looking to recommend in regards to that dam. So those are probably the two items that the group on Bolger and Cache will be wanting to talk about.
Well, Mr. Mayor, it's Councillor Lamb, and this subject has come up during my 12 or 13 years on council sporadically, certainly not constantly, and I don't think we should be having a discussion about the dam because we don't know much about the dam, so let's not wander off into that territory. What I do think we should talk about, I guess, is what we can do, and I guess my impression is it's a bit out of my weight category. Obviously, it has to do with mostly provincial policies, whether they be M&R or the Ministry of Environment or the OPP, those sorts of bodies all getting together to enforce the laws and proper behavior as best they can, and then B, I guess, informing us what we might be allowed to do or what options we might be able to look at in order to fix the situation a bit. But again, we have limited resources. We have our fire department, but we don't have our bylaw officer running up in that area and trying to enforce whatever. So I think there's discussions that you and perhaps the fire chief and the CAO have to have, with the authorities, and they'll lead us and give us some options. I really don't feel like I have any options to control what I take from the letters as mostly visitors to the area. But they're citizens of Canada and of Ontario, and I guess they have a right to be on Crown land, but they don't have a right to break the law. So anyway, those are just generally my comments. But I mean, we could go on for an hour on this thing, and I don't know what the answer is. I think the answer is for you to meet with other people and let them tell us what the answers are. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Other suggestions?
Councilor McEwen, Mr. Lau, or pardon me, Mr. Mayor. Joe, thank you. I guess I'm getting tired. If Whitestone attempts to, resolve or solve some parts of these kinds of issues on M&R property, it can become a very, very huge issue in my mind. From where I live here, I see so much increase in traffic, whether it be ATVs, side-by-side, dirt bikes. I don't know if there's 10 or 20-fold more. And I don't know if they're locals and or visitors. I assume a lot of them are visitors. They go up in groups. And I don't know where they go for all the side roads, I guess. But it certainly is something to appreciate on behalf of those people, our ratepayers back in that area. And I can sense their frustration and concerns. But until we get some direction and information from MNRF and Councilor Lam mentioned, probably environmental people and so on, and come up with some possible solutions through other groups, I guess, of how to enforce. Maybe it has to be closed down again. I don't know, but that's certainly a really big deal. And as was alluded to, there are certain rights here on Crown properties. It's a heck of a big deal. I've only ever just basically heard of it in my 6 years on council, but I know it goes back a long time as being a camping area. It's been a noted, well-known location back in the Black Lake area for camping and such. So it's only going to get more populated as time goes on, and it could happen really quick, as evidenced by this summer's increase in population. So I guess getting assistance and working with the MNR, as I guess, Mr. Mayor, you're attempting to do that. That's the only place we can start, in my mind. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Councilor McEwen. Are there other comments? Or?
Yes, Mr. Mayor?
Yes, go ahead.
So just from what I've seen since I've been on council and been talking to people up in that area, it feels like things are escalating in that area. We're quite often regulars for ice cream up at the loggers, and one of the last times we were up there was actually a tractor-trailer truck parked in the parking lot, and they were unloading beater vehicles. None of them had plates. That he said that he was delivering up the hydro line. People were coming to pick them up. So, it just seems like, you're getting all these vehicles up there. Not all of them, but obviously some of them aren't licensed. They'd have no insurance. And, it just seems like it's kind of getting to be the Wild West up there. And I don't know the solution at all. I think, we're going to have to see more problems up there, more, injuries and things happening that, aren't per se fall under the municipality's problem, but it does too, because it is part of the of our area, and it does affect people that do live here and do have to pay taxes that have to travel through this area. So, I don't know what the solution is, but I'm certainly interested in what we can do and helping to find something to do about it.
Okay, thank you. Anything else? Well, I think that we can. We can leave it at that for tonight. I don't have any real good answers. I'm hoping that we can engage in some meaningful conversation with the other parties who are involved in this. The largest of which is the Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry. Some of you may know that we do have a new district. He's acting, but he's new to the ministry and new to these responsibilities as a district manager in Parry Sound. His name is Adam Wakefield, and you'll see if you look at the correspondence from the lady on Bolger that she copied him and also Norm Miller, MPP Norm Miller. So I think they're trying to get broader attention. We clearly, I agree with Councillor Lamb, we clearly do not have the resources to address this on our own. But I think we probably need to try to take some leadership in getting the parties together, because we do stand as a municipality to end up having to deal with some of the consequences if the undesirable behavior, I'll call it, continues to escalate as it appears to be doing. When there is a fatality or people set fire to things that they shouldn't or whatever, of course our fire and rescue service ends up having to respond to it, and we normally, unless somebody starts a huge forest fire, of course the M&R isn't that involved. Occasionally they will go back and try to do some enforcement. The OPP have also on occasion enforced things like liquor laws and so on the Clear Lake Road, for example. But when the conversations I had with them earlier this year, they basically said, we don't have any resources for this. We're not touching it unless there's, if there's a fatality or some serious offense takes place. I guess they'll go back there, but they're not patrolling it on a routine basis, and that's one of the attractions for the folks who want to do things like run the unlicensed vehicles and all that sort of thing, which otherwise they would not. If the police were enforcing, they wouldn't be permitted to do that. They'd be stopped in their tracks. So anyway, I think we have to sort of see how it plays out, but hopefully we can get some conversations going over the wintertime to we're getting close to the end of the season for this sort of thing for this year, but like after Thanksgiving it'll drop off. But I suspect it'll pick up again next year, as Councillor Gorham Matthews has suggested. So anyway, I think we can leave it for now, and thanks for your comments. So with that, we can move, I guess, to councillor items. Councillors, do you have any new items you want to bring up to the attention of the council or the public?
I do, Mr. Mayor. Oh, sorry.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Councillor Lamb. I just wanted to comment. I worked along with my wife up at the landfill site sorting bottles, not this past weekend, but the weekend before that. And I wanted to make just a couple of comments. First of all, what got met with on the Saturday and Sunday was just a mess. I mean, it an extraordinary mess of bottles and you know, it was like the bottle shed. It got away from someone, and I know that all those bottles didn't come in from you know, the Monday of Labor Day to when we cleaned it out, sort of. But you know, we worked hard, and I realized there are limited resources, and I realized that you know, there's a backup, and you can only take so many cans, etc., to the store or to the beer store at one time. So, you know, all the bags are kind of, you know, I don't know how many, must be $1,000 worth of cans alone. But anyway, we cleaned it up, and I think we did a pretty good job of it. And but you know, it's a summer where there's a lot of drinking going on in our community. I felt like saying to everybody who was handing off their liquor bottles at the AA meetings on Wednesday night or something, because there was so many bottles and stuff up there. But really what hit me was this. Those sheds up there, at least at York Street, are not doing the job. We have two sheds, one with a door on it, where you can't really stack properly because they get too high in there. You've got another area that's without a door, and it was just a damn mess, doggone mess in there. Okay, there's a great big raccoon living in there in the corner that I saw on the weekend. And come the wintertime, it's going to be worse up there. I mean, if it rains, the rain goes in that limited shack that has no door. And in the wintertime, when we get snow in there, it's going to be a disaster. So I don't know who designed this, but you know, I had said at one point, we need one great big building with a roll-up door that might accommodate all this. And I just don't see it working at York Street. It was a mess. And I don't know about Alls. I haven't been up there to see that one. But if we think this one's working, from my observations, it's not working. So I just want to make that comment before we have what I think is a looming problem up at the landfill site this winter with the snow going in there and people trying to sort bottles in those sort of conditions. So those are my comments, and I made sure that the people who were sorting, who were just as disgusted as I was at the state of the situation when we went up there, and it looked a lot better at the end of the weekend than it did at the first of the weekend, thanks to the work of a lot of people. And again, I don't want to put down the people that do it all the time. I'm sure they do a lot of work. I don't know how many parents at the school participate, but it goes to the benefit of the kids, and I think the more people that participate, the better it is. So anyway, those are my comments. But mostly my comments are being critical of the buildings up there more than anything else. So thank you.
Well, just so you know, there is supposed to be a door on the sorting shed, and the larger shed is intended to be a sorting area. And I went up to the other day just to check the situation myself, and I saw the situation that you're describing, Councillor Lamb. There were bottles way out and so on, way out, and they have been a lot of them had been sorted, but they were way out in front of the front of the shed. But anyway, there is supposed to be a door which goes on the front of the shed that can close it to keep the snow out of it in the wintertime, and that can and that will, when you lift it up, it's like a one-piece garage door. When you lift it up, it will stick out in front and provide a little bit of shelter for the people who are sorting, who typically are working out in front of the of the actual front wall of the shed, because they're sorting into bins that are inside the shed. So there is some work that needs to be done before wintertime on that. And
you're talking a door on the bigger shed?
Yeah, we're looking into doing that, and it will also provide as I say, it'll also provide shelter in the summer, so that if they're sorting and it's raining or the hot sun is beating down, they'll get a little bit of shade at the front of it while we're working there. And then when the landfill site closes at night, the door will come down to prevent stuff from getting in there, including your friend the raccoon. So I didn't know there was I didn't see the raccoon, but anyway.
He was there. He was there Saturday, and he's quite huge.
Yeah, well, he's probably Anyway, so your point is well taken. That was intended to be part of the original design of it, but there was some discussion going on as to exactly how it was going to be. How it's going to be attached and so on, but there is a little bit of money left over in the budget for that project to do that, and the intent is that it'll get done before wintertime. So otherwise, I think it would be very difficult. The snow would pack in there, and it would be difficult to get it stuff. I can't comment on the other problem. There is a backlog, as you noted, in getting the sorted materials returned, and I haven't heard an update on that lately, but
Mr. Mayor, I heard this week that, God bless them, the people that are doing them from the school somehow are going to take all those cans and put them in their own garages or something as an interim step, because they can only take, I think, 20 bags or something over to Magnetawan at a time, or in a week or something like that. So I understand most of the bags are going to be cleared out this week. That was according to the landfill attendants who were up there on the weekend. But anyway, I know everyone's trying hard, and I'm pleased that we're going to have at least a door on it. Again, they don't seem ample enough to me in terms of size, but it is what it is. So okay, thank you. Thanks for answering my question.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Are there any other items from councillors? All right, then. We can take questions from the public.
It's Gary Monahan, and I'm sorry if you've already discussed and decided about the bylaw regarding campfires between 6 p.m. and 6 a.m.
Well, we have. I guess my question is, have you seen the? We did approve a bylaw, but I'm wondering if you're aware of what the final decision was on that.
No, I'm not. So that's why I'm sort of asking before I make my comments.
Well, just in a nutshell, the bylaw that was approved earlier before you came on the call, Gary, was that the provision basically is that you can have a campfire, which is defined as a fire for the purposes of cooking and socialization, and I suppose in some cases it might include warmth as well. But those fires can be set during the day or in the evening, unless the fire rating is high or extreme. And if the fire rating is high or extreme, then if the fire rating is high, then you can only do it in the evening. And of course, if there's a fire ban, you can't do it. You can't have them at all, those fires. And the other thing is that a seasonal permit is required. So that's one permit that you would take out at the start of the season that lasts for the season. The permit is free. It will be available electronically in the coming year. and not simply so that we know where fires are taking place and can be sure that people have read the instructions that go along with the permit in terms of what the person starting the fire or intending the fire is responsible to do. So that was the sort of, I don't know if that answers your question, but that's kind of the final resolution of that of that discussion that was held about whether fires should be permitted in the, when those types of fires should be permitted.
Yeah. Actually, I find that all really reasonable. So I don't have any comments. You addressed my concerns, and what you propose, I think, is a good course of action. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you for your interest in the subject and for weighing in. Are there any other questions from the public, or any other comments any other items that we want to raise? All right. I'm just going to make a note. Okay, so that concludes our matters arising from correspondence and our questions from councillors and the public. We are now ready then to entertain a motion to adjourn to closed session. Can I get a mover and seconder, please?
I'll move it, Councillor Lamb.
Thank you. Seconded by?
I'll second, Councillor Woods.
Thank you.
Leaving conference.
It is now 8:40. It is now 8:42 p.m. If everyone is in agreement, we will adjourn this meeting, and we will ask the councillors to call back on the
leaving conference
number,
Councillor Lamb,
with the code that is on your pink sheet
leaving
for an
conference.
in-camera session. Very brief.
Leaving conference.
Councillor Gorham-Matthews?
Leaving conference.
Councillor McEwen?
Leaving conference. Leaving conference.
George Comrie?
Leaving conference.
Joe McEwen?
Leaving conference.
Scott Nash?
Leaving conference.
Gary Monahan.